Now I give the floor to Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me start by thanking Special Envoy Pedersen and ASG Moussouya for the briefings and invaluable work. Mr. President, Syria's stability is pivotal for the whole region. Greece has long-standing economic, political and cultural relations with Syria, and we want to open a new chapter in our ties and contribute to the stability and prosperity of this country. This is why our foreign minister visited Damascus last Sunday to convey this message. At the same time, we have certain expectations from the de facto authorities in Syria. In this respect, I wish to underscore 4 points. First, only an inclusive political transition will be viable in Syria. We expect a fully inclusive political transition, including all Syrian voices, for instance Christians, Druze and the Kurds, towards a fully representative and non-sectarian government which will prepare constitutional reform and lead towards election in the spirit of UN Security Council Resolution 2254. The only sustainable path forward is one of a Syrian-led and Syrian-owned, fully inclusive political process, free of foreign interference, following an inclusive national dialogue. Any alternative will sow the seeds of future instability, one which the brave Syrian people can simply not afford. We took carefully note of Mr. Shara's appointment as president for a transitional phase, as well as him being bestowed the ability to appoint a transitional legislative body. We carefully monitor how this will affect the political process. We are eager to welcome additional clarity in this regard. We should spare no effort for the integration of all affected, male, female, civilians, including the vibrant Christian community and all religious and ethnic groups in the political life of this country. Safeguarding Syria's rich cultural heritage and religious monuments is also key. Second, the humanitarian security situation must be urgently addressed. Greece is particularly worried with the humanitarian conditions on the ground. Syrian infrastructure is largely devastated. Food and electricity are scarce in large swaths of the country, while fighting ensues, particularly in cities in the north and northeast. Meanwhile, the real risk of the resurgence of ISIL and other terrorist groups remains. ISIL operates in pockets of Syrian land. It is crucial that it prevent its potential re-emergence, a substantial menace to neighboring countries and regional stability. The threat of non-conventional weapons also needs to be addressed. Syria must abide by all relevant country Security Council resolutions, demonstrating a clear willingness to cooperate with the international community, particularly on chemical weapon stockpiles. We are encouraged by the positive signs of cooperation between the de facto authorities and the OPCW. We call for its sustained contribution. Third, the safe and voluntary return of Syrian refugees must remain on a collective horizon. Syrians deserve to go home and contribute to the rebuilding of the country. We fully support the efforts of UNHCR and OCHA in this regard, as well as collective efforts towards restoring shelters and critical infrastructure in Syria, contributing to the safe and voluntary return of Syrian refugees. We have noted the willingness of many Syrians to explore the conditions for their return, and the international community must rise to this occasion. Of course, we take carefully note of appeals for the suspension of sanctions. The EU foreign ministers recently agreed on opening the discussion for a step-by-step easing of some sectoral sanctions on Syria to assist its recovery. The EU collectively sent a signal of willingness to re-engage with Syria, while also advising for caution and laying out its expectation for fully inclusive political process. Syrian commitments to fully respecting international law, including, let me stress, international law of the sea, as well as the respect for the sovereignty and sovereign rights of neighboring countries. In this respect, the EU steps are conditional and reversible. Fourth, we call on all parties to respect the unity, independence, territorial integrity and sovereignty of Syria. Deeply concerned by systematic violations of Syrian sovereignty, we expect all actors to contribute responsibly and sincerely to the stabilization and reconciliation efforts of the international community. All regional stakeholders must refrain from acts that could jeopardize the political transition in the country for the sake of their own foreign or domestic policy objectives. In the northeast, we are particularly concerned by threats against the Kurds, who have been critical partners in the fight against ISIL. Escalation and provocative rhetoric do not help. We cannot afford another conflagration in the region. We should not and cannot ignore that the Kurdish element has been critical in containing the resurgence of terrorism. Furthermore, Greece expressed its full support to UNDOF and the implementation of its mandate, calling for the respect of the 1974 disengagement agreement. In closing, Mr. President, a new area emerged for Syrians on December 8th of 2024. There is a path towards a prosperous, stable and inclusive Syria. To get there, We believe this Council message must be clear. International legitimacy and recognition lie at the end of a fully inclusive political path with strong and inclusive state institutions and with respect to international law. These are critical elements for ensuring regional stability and promoting Syria's long-term security and prosperity. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece.